Live from the Washington, D.C. area, all empowered citizens need to know about intelligent use of resources, smart governance, inclusive communities, smart industry, and healthy, thriving urbanization. This is Smart Sustainability, the TV talk about shaping a sustainable future in the digital age with Nicolette Devidar. Silencing opponents, hating others because they have a different opinion, demonizing voters, denouncing people when they don't buy into commonly suggested rules, whether they make sense or not. We're walking on a very slippery slope, one that never ended well throughout history, something we need to talk about urgently. Good evening, I'm Nicolette Devidar. Categorizing people into good or bad if they see the world differently, vote for a different candidate, or take actions has become the new norm. When talking to the Democratic side, you hear, oh, that's what Trump voters do. When talking to the Republican side, you hear, oh, that's what the left does. Fact is, we're all doing it. It's happening all around us. We're witnessing the largest steal of human power in the last 100 years, or the beginning of the largest human empowerment of the last 1,000 years, depending on our individual response. And I'm not referring to the political outcome in January. What's going on goes much deeper. It goes to the heart of each and every one of us. We're at crossroads. We can go down the same route as many times in history before, or we can rise higher and show that we've learned lessons. The picture we see currently is alarming, and it doesn't matter where you stand politically. We have a wildly left-leaning media landscape, and I say this non-judgmentally. We have big tech censoring opinions because it suits their interests. Yes, one can argue they provide a service and that means they provide their own terms. That's a different story. Fact is, information gets censored in a one-sided way. We have people who are normally afraid of power, but hide behind COVID doctrines to play self-declared COVID cops. We have mass hysteria fueled by fear, making common sense and discernment practically non-existent. And this is not to downplay COVID, but when one rationally looks at the numbers and how they're measured, the reaction is overproportionally fear-driven and agenda-driven instead of logical thinking. So in all this, it's hard not to lose balance and have hate take over. So how do we avoid getting hijacked by agendas? My guest tonight is a gentleman that I met at the Black Lives Matter Plaza, where he stood with a sign that said, "Stop hating each other because we disagree." I did stop, interviewed him, and wanted to bring him here to the studio because this is a message that's very timely for all of us. Welcome on Smart Sustainability, Don Folden.
Thank you for having me.
My other guest is our first community ambassador. Yes, Smart Sustainability now has community ambassadors who have their feet firmly planted in the community and share stories that need to get on the media. He's a community mediator by profession. Welcome, Omar Battle. And he's right here behind the screen. Thank you so much for both of you to join us in Smart Sustainability.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And I do want to add, so Don Folden actually is the founder of capitalbuddytours in DC, the best tours for African American history.
Best African American history tours in the city.
Exactly.
The best.
All right, so I'm going to start with you. So what's told in your tours that are not told in other tours?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me.
My pleasure.
On my tours, I show you the prettiest view of Washington, D.C. that no other tour company has the right to do. I have a location in Southeast D.C. because my tours start at Anacostia Metro. I start my tours in Southeast D.C., okay, and I end up on U Street. So what I try to do is to give you a full view of the city and not just a monument box. And really, you can see more of DC with Black history.
Absolutely.
No, seriously, you can see more of DC
Absolutely.
with Black history. And that's what we try to share more of DC and get them out of the monument box.
That's a great idea. And actually, we are going to show in the rebroadcast, the webpage and things like that, where people can read up a little bit about that. That's really important. So what made you go with the sign on Black Lives Matter Plaza?
Well, I've been doing DCBlackTours.com. I'm probably the most famous, non-famous person that you know, seriously, because I've been in the documentary Plot Against the President. I'm in there with my sign. The documentary they had by Don Jr., I'm in that. I'm all over the courthouse. I mean, people say, man, I see you everywhere. So we're hating each other because we disagree. And one day I just said, I called a lady up and I said, listen, I need you to put this on a sign.
Can we show the sign on the screen for a second for our audience to see that as well? There it is. See, you can see it right there. Stop hating each other because you disagree. I was struck by the message too, which is why I stopped when I went by there.
So it's been amazing, and because I got the idea from DCBlackTours.com, I had to remind people, this is the guy that you see with DCBlackTours.com, but this is my message. Please, let's stop hating each other because we disagree. Families are divided because they disagree. It's amazing that the people that are complaining about the government stopping them from going and share with families, a lot of them not even speaking to the very family that they claim the government is controlling them from going to see. So man, come on, let's cut out this. We all have some dysfunction. Nobody's perfect. So that means we can talk to each other since nobody's perfect. Either you're dysfunctional or you got somebody in your family dysfunctional or both. Okay? So since everybody's dysfunctional, come on. We can talk let's stop talking at each other with the vindictiveness, the hatred, and the division, and start talking to each other with some compassion and love.
Absolutely. So how many people, how many days have you been out there with your sign?
Every day, I go every day.
Every day?
Every day. Because of COVID, I have suspended my tours. So this is my way of staying busy. See, the mistake a lot of people make is, when things start going not as they plan them to do, they don't occupy their minds with something different to keep busy.
Yeah.
And this is my way of keeping busy, trying to encourage people, man, let's just stop hating each other.
So how many people
disagree.
stop at the sign?
Everybody, I've not had one person disagree with that sign, whether it was Republican or Democrat. And by the way, for the record, I am a Republican voter. I'm one of the few Black Republicans in Washington, D.C. I am.
And how many media outlets stop by?
None. Yours is really the first one to really.
Yep. That tells you something. If we stop by there, and we hadn't planned this, so I went literally on Black Lives Matter Plaza, and I saw the sign, and I saw Don, and I thought, I have to interview this person.
No American media. Now, I've had international media come and talk to me, but I've not had any American media come and say, man, what is this all about?
That is really a pretty serious statement, I think. This is definitely, I think, for all of us, for you at home, and also for us, really something to think about, because if we're blind to that message, though it's unfolding every day right in front of our eyes, we have a real serious problem. Why do you think it goes above people's heads?
Well, because it doesn't fit the narrative. If I was down, doing something stupid or causing some disruption, that would generate some curiosity and some media. But what I'm saying, man, we got to start healing, regardless to who won the election. We got to start. It starts with us. It's not their problem. This is our problem. We're all on the same sinking ship. And the rich got all the lifeboats, and we're fighting each other like cats and dogs on a sinking ship, instead of saying, how can we stop this ship from sinking? And
that's actually a great lead into Omar. Let's see if we can get Omar back on the screen. Omar, can you still hear me?
Yes,
there he is.
I can hear you.
So when we talked about what Don just said, we're all sitting in the sinking ship, so to speak, and we kind of have to talk to each other. You're a community mediator.
Right.
You deal with conflict resolution every day, day in and out.
Yes.
What are you seeing right now in the community?
So it's important to know that when it comes to disagreement, when it comes to people who have conflict with each other, sometimes those people hear just positions and conclusions that they disagree with. There's an image that a lot of professionals use. It's an iceberg. Part of the iceberg is above water, part of the iceberg is underwater. For the part of the iceberg that's above water, you see words like positions and conclusions. For the part of the iceberg that's underwater, you see words like values, assumptions, needs, beliefs, wounds, perceptions, observations. That's everything that led that person to that position or conclusion. So we rarely take the time to understand everything that's below another person's iceberg. We hear a person say something that we disagree with. We hear a person agree with a policy that we disagree with, but we do not take the time to find out how they came to that position or conclusion.
I think that there's another layer to it. I think hate, so just disagreeing with someone is different from hating someone for disagreeing. So what makes it go to the next level, so to speak? When you go in mediation, you have the parties who normally are pretty, when they go to mediation, they usually are pretty locked in their thinking.
Right.
Do you see a lot of hate?
Sometimes you do. You definitely do see a lot of hate, and that's something that's hard to get past. And that hate could be for a number of reasons. Sometimes you have people who are they have, I guess I would say, group identity. For example, somebody's a Republican, somebody's a Democrat. You might have somebody whose group identity lies within their culture. So you have two people who have two different group identities, so to speak.
Don, when you spoke about hate, what do you think prompts people to be so full of hate?
Well, the current environment that we're in, their hatred is producing what they want.
Who's there?
The haters.
But they're haters on both sides.
I understand, but they're getting, see, anytime a person divide a group of people, that's where the problem is. And when you got people that say it's the left or it's the right, that's the problem right there. Because they're the ones that are dividing. Okay, it's not a left or right problem. It's our problem. Isn't it interesting? We're all Americans, but we can't communicate with each other as Americans. And because we disagree, we literally hate each other. and sometimes to the death. See, in my community where I come from, see, when these young boys disagree with each other in my community, they kill each other. Their hatred is deadly. See, ain't no second chance with this. And this is what I'm trying to say. You know, this goes beyond politics.
Yep.
Okay? We have a serious issue.
Yes, we do.
And it comes down to communication is the problem. We haven't learned how to communicate with each other.
Omar, I see you nodding, so would you second that?
Yes, I definitely say that communication is definitely a huge issue. If we don't communicate with each other and learn about each other and try to find common ground, then the cycle of hate just keeps going and going and going, and it doesn't stop.
You know, isn't it interesting? Some of the same people that hate each other right now got kids that are homeschooled. They got the same problem with their children and homeschooling, but they won't talk to each other because they hate each other. And they got the same problem with their child. Mm-hmm. Isn't that interesting?
I think that is very interesting. And actually, I want to talk a little bit in the next segment about give some examples in what that divide actually looks like. So this is great information. We will continue actually talking about this when we come back. We're ready to go in a short break. Stay tuned. We will talk more about what makes the divide and then also what causes the hate and how we can really move past it. So stay with us when we come back.
During high school, I hung with the wrong crowd and I never graduated.
I helped Santiago in many different ways, like all fathers do, because he always wanted to go to college.
I felt a little embarrassed to come back to school, but eventually, once I came here, I knew that it's for a bigger goal.
He was very dedicated, hardworking. He connected with his teachers, he connected with other students. That was one of the key reasons why he was able to keep forging ahead.
It was amazing to see him graduate. This was one thing that meant so much to him, and of course, it meant so much to us too.
With the help of my father and having my son, that was all the motivation that I needed. That support is everything.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
Dad?
Just 1 minute, okay?
Hey, Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Can birds draw pictures?
I don't have an answer for that.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
Welcome back to Smart Sustainability. I'm Nicolette Devidar. Stop hating each other because we disagree. That's our topic tonight. And before we went into this second segment, we talked a little bit about the divide and the finger pointing and the blaming. So before we go in, I like to point out a few examples in what that looks like in day-to-day life, like what's really happening out there. So as you said before, we see it on both sides in politics. Even just the way we denounce people. Trump voters, there's a negative connotation to it. Biden voters, usually you don't hear that much about that, but then people get denounced as socialists when they're in the other corner, so also a negative connotation with that. You have the radical right wing who condemns the radical left wing, and vice versa. And of course, it's never in their own party. It's always the other side, right? We see even more so, even with the mask wearing, you see mask wearing doctrines versus those who judge other people who choose not to wear the mask every day as deniers, which in itself is actually also a judgment in talking to other people. You see a lot of stereotyping. You see portraying people in a certain light, which I personally find really bothering. So you hear Trump is bad, Biden is good, Trump's a liar, Biden is an ethical man. And this is not for a political statement, but you gotta see what's happening here. It's a very one-sided painting of a personal characteristic. It even went so far that a psychological magazine had actually an article in there and said Trump voters have 5 psychological characteristics in common. Talk about stereotyping people, seriously. This is what happened in history many times before, and this is how it starts. It's stereotyping, portraying people in a certain characteristic that's always someone else, denouncing a group of people, and that's how it builds. That's where the hatred goes.
Well, I think, but in fairness, you know, there are some people that have those characteristics.
Yes, there are, and we're not denying this. But the point is, we can't paint everybody. No, you cannot stereotype it.
And this is what I'm saying. Where we're going to have to start talking to each other.
That's right.
And not at each other.
That's right. And
every time we start having a comparison, we're talking at each other.
Yep.
And not to each other.
And understand the whys of it.
Right. See, one of the things that has to happen, we're going to have a painful, ugly, uncomfortable conversation.
Yep.
In America.
Yes.
Okay, because everybody got some isms in this conversation.
Yeah.
Everybody got some isms.
Like what? Give us an example.
No. I'm just saying, when I'm saying, you know, black people got as many isms in their closet as white people got isms. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we can't. Nobody has a position to throw stones. Mm-hmm. So since we all got some isms, let's sit down and talk about them. And one of the things that we're gonna have to do, we got to correct this flawed American history that we're teaching. That's where it's got to start. See, if we don't start telling the truth, well,
here's the difficulty, though.
Okay.
When you say telling the truth, truth with a small t usually is very subjective because everyone perceives truth as a different thing. I can look at this table and I say, this table is round, it's flat from the top, and that's how I see it. But see, you look at it, hang on, you look at it, you may see it differently, right?
Okay,
so I'm getting to the point of we gotta be also sensitive to understanding first how someone sees whatever they perceive as such. And I'm not denying whatever the truth is.
But let me give you an example. Mm-hmm. Now, next week we're going to be celebrating a holiday that supposedly started in 1621, right? On Plymouth Rock. But now American history starts in 1776. So I'm not even going back to 1619. Okay, when the first Africans that on record was recorded. So where's the history between, let's just say, 1621 and 1776? Where is that history? Why are we not teaching that? You see what I'm saying?
I totally see
they're still saying Columbus discovered America. Come on, man.
I don't think there is a simple record, though, that simply says this is the history. I think if you really look for, and that's what I was getting to when we talk about truth, I think the only truth that is undeniable truth is truth with a capital T, and that's a different, that has nothing to do with history. That's really more about the fundamentals of life and the fundamentals of human being.
But you now understand if we don't go back and correct. See, let me show you. Not only have we taught Americans this flawed American history, but we taught the rest of the world. So now when a foreigner come over here and can call me a nigger, I understand, because that's what you've been taught. You see, you don't know anything about my history. See, you tell me that all I want to do is be on welfare, because that's what you've been taught.
Because I think this is where people need to have a natural curiosity and trying to understand how history really developed. And just to give you an example, history is always written by the victor, basically. I mean, that's just what it is. And I give you an example about that too. So I'm German.
Okay.
And we don't celebrate Veterans Day, obviously, Armistice Day. And most of us, you wouldn't find it in a history book, actually. So when you ask most people what's on November 11, they will give you the beginning of Carnival in Germany, because we've not been taught that this is actually Armistice Day. Most people will not make this automatic connotation with that. That's one example.
Now, funny that you say you're from Germany.
Mm-hmm.
Lady named Atley Assing, Assing. Her and Frederick Douglass, she was from Germany. Mm-hmm. Her and Frederick Douglass had a 28-year friendship. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, when Frederick Douglass' first wife died, she went back to Paris thinking they were going to get married.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm going to have to go back here to Omar on this one.
Okay.
So, because he's watching there too. So, Omar, when we talk about it, when we talk about the truth, you're in mediation. I bet when you talk to two parties, each of them probably thinks the way they look at it is the truth. Do they not?
Correct. People can have two different ideas about what's right or what's wrong, two different ideas about what is truth. But I heard you mention communication, and communication is important. Communication is key. A lot of times when I'm at the mediation table, people give their evaluation of the other person. Let me just give you an example. For example, someone might say, this person is a jerk. Okay, but that's an evaluation. Observation would be someone telling you why they think that person is a jerk. For example, you were late 3 times when we were supposed to meet. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's an observation. And that makes me feel like you don't value my time. So can you help me understand what's going on? Given your observation and how you feel about someone or something or their actions, instead of giving your evaluation of them. Your evaluation is biased. Your assumptions about someone or something is biased. And oftentimes we look for information or listen to other people that support our evaluations or assumptions regarding other people. Mm-hmm. And I have encountered that at the mediation table so many times.
Can I ask them something as a mediator?
Sure.
Why do people have two truths?
It's not two truths, it's how you perceive it.
So that goes back to the iceberg that I was talking about. People have positions and conclusions. That's what's at the top of their iceberg. Everything at the bottom of that iceberg underwater is how they came to that position or conclusion. It's beliefs, values, influences, education, everything that led them to that position or conclusion. So a lot of those assumptions, a lot of those evaluations can come from everything that's below their iceberg. So instead of trying to simply criticize a person or chastise a person, let's open up the door of communication to try to understand that person.
But now, do most people make their decisions on what they see above the surface or what's below the surface? Where do the majority of the decisions come from?
It's everything above the surface, because they don't take the time to learn about what's underneath the surface. And that's what I do as a mediator. We unearth all of the things that's leading to conflict.
I like the way, Omar, when you say we unearth that, and I think that's part of the problem that we're having now when we say we hate each other because we disagree, because there are all these different values and assumptions that go in there, but we don't really ask the why questions. So when we judge other people, when you say we evaluate other people, so to speak, you already come with a set mind, with a conclusion, right? So how do we get to a point where we actually start asking the why question?
See, that's very difficult, because a lot of people, they're still stuck on their assumptions and their evaluations. They're still stuck on their own personal beliefs.
But there's got to be a way for you at home, for us going forward, once we're more sensitized about this, once we become a little bit more aware about it, to kind of install almost like a little button in your own mind that says, when you get to a point and judge someone, that there's almost like a little alarm going off and say, stop here for a moment, take some time out, and let's look at why am I actually reacting the way I do.
But see, we got to get back to right is right and wrong is wrong. Right now, right is wrong and wrong is right.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, there's no morality, there are no principles.
Some people might disagree with that.
Okay.
So what you may see as right, other people might see as wrong. So by using your own statement on the sign, where do you draw the line?
But now listen to what I'm saying to you now. I said morality. Mm-hmm. Right is right and wrong is wrong.
Give us some examples.
Well, it is wrong for me to take advantage of my neighbor or other people. That's wrong. Mm-hmm. That's wrong for me to lie, to steal, or to cheat. That's wrong. Mm-hmm. Okay? And what I'm saying to you, now you can lie, steal, and cheat and get all the way up to the top. That's wrong. And won't nobody say, man, that's wrong. Okay? And because you got to stand on some principles. And right now...
Give us some example when you say you can lie and cheat your way all to the top. What comes to your mind?
Let me give you... Just like the guy that just got fired, that just certified the election was fair. Lost his job. Because he told the truth. He said the election was fair. And it was against the narrative and he lost his job. And that's not only him. Look at how many other people that have stood up and said the right thing and have been punished for just speaking for what's right. This is what we got to get back to. The intimidation, the bullying, it's got to stop.
How do we get there?
Talking.
Omar, what's your approach on that one? How do we get there so that the intimidation and the bullying stops?
So communication is definitely key. But in regards to what's right or wrong, there's another issue there. I mean, some things are just blatantly wrong. We know that trying to kill somebody is wrong. We know that trying to harm somebody is wrong. Trying to steal from somebody is wrong. But there's these other set of issues that are often debated, such as abortion. You have people who are for abortion. You have people who are against it. And in those situations, now who decides what's right and who decides what's wrong? Sometimes you will have to agree to disagree.
And without the hatred.
Without the hatred. But let's get back to the basis of the hatred. How do we take the hatred out? How do we move past the hatred? Obviously, the opposite of hate is love, but loving the similar is easy. It's loving the opposite or the different is difficult.
What we got to realize, I think we don't focus enough on what we have in common. The things that the very person that you're hating or that you disagree with might be the person that has the answer to what you're looking for. Mm-hmm. And this is what we got to start focusing on. What do we have in common?
I would definitely agree with that. That's part of the solution, searching for a common ground. Okay, I know that this is what you want. This is what I want. I know this is what you believe. This is what I believe. How can we meet in the middle? How can we both get some of what we want?
Without hating each other.
Correct.
Yeah, well, we got to put the hate aside here for a moment.
You know what I'm saying? If I don't get it, if you don't get it, don't hate me. Because you don't get it.
I want to talk, we're almost ready to go into the next break. So when we go into the next segment, when we come up, I do want to talk about how do we actually put the hate aside, because that's a really difficult thing to do because it's so ingrained in people.
Crowd, and I never graduated.
I helped Santiago in many different ways, like all fathers do, because he always wanted to go to college.
I felt a little embarrassed to come back to school, but eventually once I came here, I knew that it's for a bigger goal.
He was very dedicated, hardworking. He connected with his teachers, he connected with other students. That was one of the key reasons why he was able to keep forging ahead.
It was amazing to see him graduate. This was one thing that meant so much to him, and of course, it meant so much to us too.
With the help of my father and having my son, that was all the motivation that I needed. That support is everything.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
Dad,
Just 1 minute, okay?
hey Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Can birds draw pictures?
I don't have an answer for that.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
Welcome back to Smart Sustainability. I'm Nicolette Devidar. Stop hating each other because we disagree. That's our topic tonight. And we covered a lot of ground coming into this. In this next segment or two, I'd like to talk a little bit about the hate. How do we actually leave the hate behind? We talk a lot about you have to take the hate out. Are most people aware, Omar, when they actually hate something, that they are hating something?
It's very possible that they're not aware.
So how do you leave something out if you're not aware of it?
So that's a very difficult question to answer because not everybody is going to be aware that, what they feel is based on hatred. So, that requires a person to be open-minded and to gain knowledge. I know as a mediator, that's part of what I do. We help open people's minds to the idea that, hey, maybe there's some things that you are doing, or maybe there are some things about yourself as well that you need to come to grips to.
Let me ask you something. If I ask both of you to describe hate, Don, if you had to describe hate, how would you describe the feeling? What is it?
Your refusal to see things differently.
That's hate?
Yeah. I mean, that's basically, you're set in your ways. You ain't gonna see nothing no different.
So tunnel vision, would you, the way you describe it, would qualify as hate?
That is simple it's just that simple. Mm-hmm. You refuse to see it differently.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Omar? What's your definition? How would you describe it?
I would describe it almost as your own personal disgust based on your own prejudices and bigoted ideas.
Mm-hmm.
That you won't see differently.
What do you think fuels hate, particularly in the climate and in the environment we're in right now, when we see, when we disagree and we say we hate each other because we disagree? What do you think fuels the hate? What
I would
contributes
say
to
ignorance fuels hate.
Ignorance?
Yes, that's what I would say.
What about you?
I'd say selfishness.
Selfishness?
Yeah.
Explain on that a little bit.
I mean, because you only, if you look at it, it's almost like what's in it for you. It's the only thing that's important. What is, nobody else can benefit from it, but you. You got to have the main control of the apparatus. Mm-hmm. So it's just, it's all about you. It's a selfishness. It's all about you.
Where does fear play into that?
That's how you control people.
Well, yeah, if you control people because you're afraid, that's right. But how does fear, when we see a lot of fear-mongering out there among media, among outlets, among the headlines and things like that, how does that add or fuel hatred?
That's an insecurity.
Personal insecurity?
Yes, it is. And when people manipulate that insecurity, they can control you as a person. And I mean, think about this. Every corner of your house. Why should you be afraid about somebody breaking in your house that know nothing about it? You know everything about it. They don't even know where the light switches are.
Right.
But you are afraid of somebody breaking in your house. Come on, man.
Let's talk about disagreements. Why is it okay and necessary to disagree?
That's the only way you're going to develop an understanding.
Mm-hmm. What's your point on that, Omar?
Well, I wanted to go back a little bit to what I said. The source of hatred is ignorance. People have these prejudiced ideas about other people or bigoted ideas about other people or groups of people, and fear plays into that. Just think about, the Jews in Germany, right? Mm-hmm. People, they demonize certain groups of people to incite fear. Mm-hmm. I think about George Floyd, right? You've had people who say, "Well, look at George Floyd. He didn't have the best background. There was some criminality in his background." Well, people use things like that or say things like that to demonize people. So you won't feel any sort of sympathy or empathy for them when something happens to them. At least that's the goal. So that's another way of just inciting fear and feeding ignorance and prejudice and bigotry.
That's actually a really good point. And I think this is really what's happening now a lot as well during COVID. And this is what happened in the past in history. Like if you go back history, I can name right now, I mean, 3 instances in history where exactly that same pattern has evolved all the time. You had it during the time of the Inquisition, when we went on a witch hunt where women were demonized, that were, you know, free thinkers and more outside, and they believed more in plant or herbology versus other types of medicine, for example. They were demonized and said, oh, that's a witch, so we're going to go after. People were afraid of them. We saw that during the French Revolution, for example, when they characterized Marie Antoinette and scapegoated her as the one person where all the hate and the blame was directed towards, that people felt inside them. And of course, as you said, in Germany in the Third Reich, same thing. So
I mean, anytime you're not going to evolve in your understanding, you can't do anything but hate. That's all that's left.
Yeah, but why are we not picking up on this right now? Why are we falling into the trap, and I think we are currently falling into the trap, of not picking up on that? Why are we not more aware of that? Why do we have a country that's, you know, deeply divided, but the division is there, but the point is, why do we keep pointing fingers and only point fingers on the other person? Do we lack responsibility?
Because division is where the cash cow is. It's all about money. This is right now is all about money.
Well, let's clarify this. What do you mean by this right now is all about money?
Because the division, the confusion, you know, the animosity, the vindictiveness, the hatred, that generates press. That's what the press is interested in. They're not interested in unity.
Oh yeah, for the media, that makes
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, but I mean, but so for the media, that's money, because that's what they're feeding the people. That's what people are wanting now.
Yeah, so the media feeds people, but
Okay.
where is the responsibility and accountability of each of us, of each individual, so to speak? Because the media can show you whatever you want, but you don't necessarily have to buy in. So where is the accountability and individual responsibility?
It's non-existent.
Omar, you look like you have something to say?
No, I was thinking about something that you mentioned. I was thinking about something that you said about why disagreement was important. And through disagreement, you get innovation. So if people come together who disagree, that can lead to innovation. Without differences in opinion and thought, belief, you wouldn't get innovation.
Absolutely. Hold that thought, because I do not want to mix those two. I thought those are really 2 important points. So one is, why is it important to disagree? I want to get back to that. The other part is what you just said, Don, when you said that accountability is non-existent. Why? What got us to that point, in your opinion?
That's why they blame. That's why it's everybody else's fault.
But where did we miss out in teaching people, in thinking about ourselves? Where did this part get lost along the way? It's 2020 now. Shouldn't we be at a point where we say, yeah, we take accountability for these things?
But then if you accept accountability, then you have to also accept why the conditions exist that exist. And they go hand in hand. And a lot of people would rather, it's easier to blame the conditions on somebody else than to say, I got a part to play in this as well. Okay? You know, the hatred that's going on in the country is not them.
It's in
all of us.
That's right, it's in all of us, yeah.
Okay? Because whether you participate or not, if you're silent on the sideline, you're participating. You might not be actually doing it, but your silence is just as deadly.
Omar, you're nodding?
Yeah, I was thinking about the subject of accountability. You know, there are sometimes nations that don't want to be accountable for the wrongdoing that they've done to other nations. I'll give you an example. In 1937, Japan invaded a place called Nanking, China, and they killed an estimated up to 300,000 people, and they put women all throughout Asia into what they call comfort stations, and they became comfort women. Well, for a long time, Japan didn't want to fess up to that. They didn't want to be accountable to their actions. And, that leads to, once again, an issue of, okay, you have a nation or a group of people who are refusing to be accountable. Well, that's going to generate some hate.
Mm-hmm. Let's address in those last 7 minutes that we have left a little bit how we can move past that. So we talked about accountability. Yes, we talked about it's easier to show that it's easier to point the finger on other people than actually having to start within yourself. How do we get people, each of us, what would you say to yourself to focus on accountability, personal accountability, responsibility?
It's a mindset that people are stuck in, black and white, that we gotta address. And if you understand the mindsets that have been created, then you can deal with the problem. See, slavery was designed to be permanent through the status of the woman. If that woman was enslaved, everything she birthed was enslaved. All right? And just like, welfare. Welfare is designed that if that woman, as long as she's single, she can have as many babies as she wants. The government is going to take care of them as long as that man is not in the house. So now you got generation on top of generation that has a mindset of getting something for nothing. Like the 1850 Fugitive Slave Act. A lot of people don't realize this is what a lot of today in 2020 is the mindset a lot of people, white people, are stuck in. We're the only race of people that have to justify why we are where we are because of the 1850 Fugitive Slave Act.
So when you say you're the only race, you mean African Americans?
We're the only ones. The modern day police department is patterned after the slave catcher. That's the model for the police department. See, so what I'm saying, unless we address this history, which is painful, ugly, and uncomfortable, we ain't gonna never move. We're gonna still stay stuck where we are. And this is the problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's true. I mean, you have to address uncomfortable topics in a way, in a detached manner, so we can talk about
that we can agree to disagree.
To disagree.
Without hating each other. And right now, anything that's pro-black is automatically perceived as anti-white. No, it's not.
Are you stereotyping now?
No, I'm telling you the truth. In America.
So who automatically perceives as anti-white?
Society.
I don't think along like that.
But see, you're in the minority.
Doesn't matter. It's still an individual, right?
But
I'm sure there are more people who think like that.
But you're in the minority. In fact, I think a guy just lost his job or something because he said he was in the marketing, and whatever they were looking at, it was too black. And somebody complained that he said whatever the campaign they was looking at was too black, and he lost his job. And that's just here recently. Yeah.
Omar, where are you coming in on this one?
On accountability, you people definitely have to have personal accountability, but there's also a question of how do you hold your officials accountable? How do you hold other nations accountable for the things that they've done? So there's also an issue there. It's personal accountability is one thing, accountability of other people, officials, and nations is another.
So does that come up in mediations when you mediate conflict? Do you hold parties accountable?
So in terms of mediation, the people at the mediation table, I would say, hold each other accountable. right? Because
But then you put it away again. So we're back to square one. If they hold each other accountable, then we kind of put the accountability away from ourselves.
Right. Well, no. So when you have people who are holding each other accountable, that's kind of a different thing. You have two people holding each other accountable. Look, you did this to me in the past. Oh, okay. Well, you know what? That wasn't my fault because, you know, you started something in the past that made me do that. So people will hold each other accountable in mediation. No.
Mm-hmm. So I actually want to go into a quick story that I really think is important to understand a little bit in how we perceive truth, how we can hopefully increase understanding. And I don't know if you may actually know it. You may know it, it's the story of the 6 blind men and the elephant. I don't know if you've heard of it or not, but there's 6 blind men. Each of them is holding on to a part of the elephant, and each of them is describing that part of what they're just touching as the actual elephant. You can see it right there on the monitor. So one person says they touch the leg and they say, well, the elephant is a tree. The other person touches the body and they say, well, the elephant is a wall. You have another person who touches only the tail of the elephant and says, oh, it's a rope. You have another one who touches the ear and who says, oh, the elephant, it's a fan. And you have another one who touches the teeth and he says, that's a spear. So my point is, if you really look at all this, they're all right in their own sense of where they're looking at it, but no one is looking at the entire elephant as the full picture. And so I think really for us, when we go forward, we need to keep in mind a little bit that you never see the whole picture, but that whatever the person sees at what they see, from their perspective, there is a certain validity or a certain truth to it. You see what I mean?
But you have to be open.
Yes, you have to be open.
To entertain the conversation.
Absolutely, you have to be open. So in the last, what's your final word for you to give to our viewers? And how would we do it? Open for conversation?
Man, just be open.
That will take down the hate?
Somebody, just continue to be the light. Regardless to how dark it is, you be the light.
Omar, what's your final word? It's got to be quick.
I would say just look beyond your own personal beliefs, values. Try to understand the other person. Invite them to have a conversation with you.
Yep, and that's a great ending. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and we'll see you next week in Smart Sustainability. Go to our Facebook page to know more about the program and what you might feel hateful about.